On an seemingly ordinary day at Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the city's calm is shattered by a horrific act of violence. A man drives a van into a parking garage across the Allegheny River from PNC Park. After paying for parking, he sets up a sniper rifle and without warning opens fire on innocent pedestrians along the river's North Shore Trail. 5 people are killed in quick succession before the shooter flees the scene in his van. The police, led by Detective Emerson, swiftly respond, discovering a shell casing and a parking meter coin at the scene. A fingerprint on the coin leads them to James Barr, a former U.S. Army sniper. When they raid his home, they find the van, sniper rifle, and other incriminating evidence, leading to his arrest. During interrogation, Barr refuses to speak but writes a cryptic message, "Get Jack Reacher." Jack Reacher is a former U.S. Army Military Police Corps officer known for his sharp investigative skills and nomadic lifestyle. Upon seeing the news report about Barr's arrest, Reacher arrives in Pittsburgh. He meets with Detective Emerson and District Attorney Alex Rodan, who deny his request to view the evidence but allow him to see Barr. However, Barr has been brutally attacked by fellow inmates during transport and is now in a coma. Reacher also meets Helen Rodan, Barr's defense attorney and the DA's daughter, who is determined to save Barr from the death penalty. Reacher reveals to Helen that he has a history with Barr. During their time in Iraq, Barr had gone on a killing spree but was not prosecuted due to the victims being under investigation for major crimes. Reacher had vowed that if Barr ever tried something similar again, he would take him down. Initially convinced of Barr's guilt, Reacher is puzzled by Barr's request for him, knowing that Reacher would not hesitate to bring him to justice if guilty. Helen persuades Reacher to investigate the case, and he agrees on the condition that she visits the victims' families to learn about the people murdered that day. Reacher examines the crime scene and notices inconsistencies, believing that a trained shooter would have committed the killings from the cover of the van on the nearby Fort Duquesne Bridge. Helen's findings about the victims lead Reacher to suggest that the owner of a local construction company was the intended target, with the other victims killed to cover up that fact. Reacher's investigation attracts unwanted attention. After a bar fight, he realizes that someone is trying to intimidate him into dropping the case. He is later framed for the murder of a young woman who was paid to instigate the bar fight, further motivating him to uncover the truth. Before her death, Reacher had traced her and found that the man paying her was known only as the Zek. Reacher obtains the Zek's address from the woman and goes there, where he is attacked by Russians but manages to escape. Reacher theorizes that Barr was framed. The only evidence placing Barr at the crime scene is a coin with his fingerprint, allegedly used to pay for parking. Reacher believes that the Russian mafia took Barr's fingerprint and DNA and planted it at the shooting site to frame him. He notices a car following him and, upon investigation, discovers that it is registered to a front company owned by the Russian mafia, who wanted to buy a construction company to increase their legitimate presence. The owner of the company had refused to sell and had sued the Russian front company. Reacher theorizes that the mafia orchestrated the murder of the company owner and killed 4 random people to cover up the intended victim. Reacher follows a lead to a shooting range in Ohio, owned by former U.S. Marine Corps Gunnery Sergeant Cash. Cash agrees to talk only if Reacher proves his sniping skills, which he does. Cash tells Reacher that Barr was his best shooter and always hit the bullseye at 700 yards. However, Reacher contests this, stating that Barr was never this good a shooter in the Army. He suspects that Barr was accompanied by a friend who switched the target sheets to make Barr look like an expert. Video recordings show that Barr was always with a man who was part of the mafia team that attacked Reacher. The real perpetrators are members of a Russian gang, masquerading as legitimate businessmen. The gang's elderly leader, known only as the Zek, had spent much of his life in a Soviet gulag. The gang kidnaps Helen with the help of their accomplice, police detective Emerson, and holds her hostage at a construction site. Reacher, with Cash's assistance, outwits the mob guards and kills them. He confronts Emerson before killing him, revealing that nobody would have checked the parking meter, not even him, and that's how he knew Emerson was involved. Reacher then confronts the Zek about the conspiracy. The Zek is killed by Reacher after asserting that the other conspirators, who were killed by Reacher, were the only witnesses against him, and that Reacher would more likely go to prison as a drifter accused of murdering a young woman. Reacher and Cash flee the scene, making Reacher a wanted man, but he is confident that Helen will clear his name. When Barr awakens from his coma, he tells Helen that he has no recent memory but believes he must be guilty of the shooting. Barr's mental reconstruction of how he would have committed the shootings confirms Reacher's theory was correct. Still unaware of all this, Barr is willing to confess and accept punishment, fearing that Reacher will mete out justice if the law does not. But Helen knew now. She had the truth. And she would make sure the real criminals were exposed. If you enjoyed the video, hit like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.